Hi there, students. An unwritten rule. Unwritten rules. Okay, these are normally constraints on behavior in organizations or societies or groups of people that are not written down, that they're not actually spoken about. These rules exist, but in unspoken and unwritten formats. And they are assumptions of the way you have to behave, that this is the logical way of doing it. And this is particularly common in organizations, in hierarchies, that you have behavioral norms that govern the relationships between people, but without actually being written down. And normally these seem logical to the people who work in this group, but very often they are are exclusionary to minority groups. So something that's unwritten, it doesn't exist in a written form. It's a law or a rule that doesn't exist officially, but people obey it. So there's an unwritten rule that you don't wear jeans to a funeral. There's an unwritten rule at work that you can wear casual clothes on Fridays. Okay, so a guideline that is accepted. It's accepted by people, but it's not formally established. And unwritten rules are particularly common in companies and organizations, but in clubs and groups of people as well. So, I don't know, for example, at school, there's the unwritten rule that you don't inform on your classmates to the teacher. Yeah, lex non scripta in Latin, a law not written, an unwritten law, or jus non scriptum as well. Okay, so these are normally laws that maybe a law of nature or a law between nations or things that are customary. These are rules. For example, they say that if a company that specifies and writes down all the unwritten rules makes it easier for people to fit in. So, for example, a pet, once it's named, becomes an inseparable member of the family. Yeah, you can't eat it, for example. Or when a ship is sinking, look, the captain, there is an unwritten rule that the captain is the last person to evacuate, the last person to get out. I think the football club Rangers had an unwritten rule that they wouldn't sign any player who wasn't a Catholic. Or if you wanted to play for Yorkshire Cricket Club, there was an unwritten rule that you could only play if you were born in Yorkshire. And this is the idea. It's a rule that's understood, but it doesn't exist in written form. It's like oral law. It's something that everybody obeys, but it's not actually written down. There's an unwritten rule with athletes at universities or at colleges that if they behave badly or they get poor exam results, that's not a problem as long as they are successful in their sport. That's an unwritten rule. Okay, it's one that doesn't exist officially. And there are unwritten rules all over the place in our lives, unfortunately. So it's not formally enforced, but it clearly does apply. This is normally perhaps a habit. For example, in Spain, if you go into a bar, it's an unwritten rule that you pay afterwards. In the UK, the unwritten rule is you pay as soon as you go as you order your beer. Okay, so something that is that people understand that this is going to happen, but it's not actually something that's been written down. So it's a law or a rule that's based on custom rather than legislation, unwritten law as well. I guess there are various. You can't repeal the unwritten laws of economics. Okay, so it's an unwritten rule in our office that everybody has to work in every position for at least a month. Okay, so there's an unwritten rule amongst actors not to mention the Scottish play, to mention Macbeth, because they say it's bad luck. So it's an unwritten rule. It's like a tradition, a formality, a convention. Let's see, I think in life the biggest unwritten rule is don't get caught. You can do anything you like, but just don't get caught. Okay, so yes, the unwritten rule, don't embarrass the boss. If you embarrass the boss, you're in trouble, and that's maybe another unwritten rule. Okay, so formality, an unwritten rule, an unwritten law. I'm going to give it a 5 in formality, use anywhere. So, an unwritten rule.